Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome back to Mismapasion, and game week number 7 of the Barclays Women's Super League has come and gone. So let's take a look at all the action that took place this weekend, starting with an epic barn burner at the Emirates. Raising the curtain of a game week for the second time this season, Arsenal returned to the Emirates to take on fellow top 4 rivals in Brighton and Hove Albion, with both teams coming off differing results that informed their respective momentum going into the game, with Brighton being arguably the favourites to get a positive result over their covering Gunners. But football, for all its intents and purposes, is not a game that is played on paper, and once you step onto the pitch, it's an entirely different prospect, as this game showcased. Without taking a look at the table beforehand, let alone both teams' form from the very first game of the season, you would have thought by the end of the whistle that Arsenal were, respectfully, playing championship opposition, because the home team unloaded clip after clip that left Brighton completely shell-shocked with the hangover that they will be feeling today at this time of recording, despite there being no alcohol allowed on the pitch or in the stadium. Arsenal fans, at least for the 97 minutes that they watched in this game, finally got their old Arsenal back. A team that was energetic, well organized, aggressive, fluid, and most shockingly of all, actually put the ball into the back of the net without having to miss 90 million times beforehand. Yes, it was a dominant performance from the home team, who, in my opinion, put in a 5-star display against some worthy opposition in Brighton, who, despite their best efforts, could not hold a candle to Arsenal in contrast. And that is not to say Brighton did not show up, because they did have their fleeting moments that stood out, but on this night, Arsenal were far more superior to them in every conceivable way, shape, and form, because everything that Arsenal did on the pitch and in the dugout in terms of substitutions came off perfectly, with the goals coming from Mead, Ford, Monham, Hurtig, and Russo, who converted from the spot to send the message out that Arsenal are back. The next Friday night under the lights match saw league leaders Manchester City welcome Tottenham Hotspur to the Joie Stadium, where there would soon be none for Spurs, who immediately went behind, with Bunny Shaw opening the scoring in less than 30 seconds after wrestling the ball off Neville in what was honestly as Spursy as you could possibly get, and pretty much summarized their dreadful performance as a whole. City dominated this game almost as if they'd taken inspiration from the match going on in London whilst they were playing, and practically emulated Chelsea's performance against Spurs, but to an arguably higher degree, as Spurs were sitting ducks throughout, as shown by Shaw's second goal from a cross, in which she was left unchallenged by the opposition defense. Realistically, the only indictment that I could find, and this was me scraping the bottom of the barrel, watching this game, at least with regards to City, is that they were unlucky with some of their shot selection, as most of the strikes they produced had the unfortunate courtesy of hitting the post time and again, with the standard example being from Lauren Hemp, whose second half shot ricocheted against the left and right side posts. In spite of that though, the superior side was never in doubt, as Shaw would finally get her third goal to not only get herself a hat-trick, but a third consecutive one against Tottenham, which is a WSL record and likely a personal vendetta that Shaw must have against Spurs, all things considered. Jill Ward would also put her name on the score sheet to make it an extraordinary win for Manchester City to extend their stay at the top of the table by another week, with Tottenham now facing down the barrel of a North London derby that could prove to be another massacre for the Lily Whites if they do not pull up their socks in the days leading up to the next match against Arsenal. The game weeks actually continued on Sunday with a treat of a match between Liverpool and Chelsea, which went the way you would expect results-wise, but not for the reasons you may think, which usually apply to Chelsea, aka dominance. Liverpool came out of the blocks hot and ready to take the fight to Chelsea, and to their credit, they put in a good account, as Chelsea were admittedly on the fritz in the majority of this game, as they struggled to effectively assert themselves initially. Yes, the Blues did enjoy the majority of the possession, but Liverpool had them clocked when it came to shutting down the opposition attack, and it was going oh so well for the the home Reds, until the theme of their downfall first came into presence, as Myra Ramirez was invited to punish a defensive lapse in concentration from Liverpool to put Chelsea in the lead, before an honestly horrible pass from Rachel Laws to her defender was intercepted and promptly put away by Guru Wrighton to double the home side's advantage going into the second half. Imbued by their 2-goal advantage, Chelsea finally began to wrestle control of the game back from Liverpool, who are now on the back foot and were in a constant battle to not concede another goal, which would definitely put the game to bed. and credit must be given to the home side, who kept on swinging, with Sophia Smith in particular being a constant spark in the Reds' attack as they fought doggedly to put themselves back in the game, as arguably their overall performance had demanded. In the end, it was not meant to be, as a wonderful attack by Chelsea in the final minutes of normal time allowed for Aggie Beaver Jones to score and put a bow on the match to send Chelsea back to London with all 3 points to remain perfect, whilst Liverpool will surely have mixed feelings about this match, as their performance was encouraging and arguably warranted something out of the game, but their defensive lapses yielded the expected outcome, especially when coming up against a top team. One of the low-key sleeper matches must go to Crystal Palace vs Everton, who dished up a fun little encounter that served as a worthwhile palate cleanser in my opinion. The amusement only took 30 seconds to kick in, as Palace looked to have taken inspiration from Man City as they scored in the aforementioned time thanks to some good pressing that ultimately put them at courtesy of new signing India Paige Riley. The early goal set a marker for both teams, with Palace looking to build on the early momentum, whilst Everton were staring down the barrel of yet another defeat. Both sides were highly rambunctious and eager to find the next goal, with Palace's technical brilliance and calmness being countered by Everton's superior physicality and fiery resolve to get themselves back on level terms. And it would be the Toffees who ultimately won out, as Honoka Hayashi headed home from a good combination play to register Everton's first goal of the game. Despite going down, Palace did their best to try and regain their lead, but Everton stood firm, and ultimately both teams had to settle for a draw, which was ultimately more than earned by the both of them. The penultimate game of the match week was unfortunately not as exciting like the matches preceding it, but it is nevertheless newsworthy, as West Ham have finally earned their first win of the season in their home game against an admittedly below average Leicester City, with Vivian Asseyi grabbing the goal to seal the first 3 points of the season for the Hammers, which can hopefully start to yield some better form for the Londoners, whereas Leicester's personnel woes continue with the injury to Hannah Kane, who came off with what looked like a really painful knee injury, which hopefully doesn't amount to much, but nothing official has been posted. But again, hopefully it is nothing serious, as Leicester are really down in the doldrums at the moment in terms of everything, because pretty much anything that could go wrong is going wrong for the Foxes, and hopefully something can come along and arrest that sooner much rather than later. And in our final match, off the back of the race we played against Arsenal last week, Manchester United remained at home to take on stragglers Aston Villa, and this was honestly anyone's game for the taking, especially in the first half, with Villa in particular doing what they do best, and that is failing to make good on their promise, especially up front, where many opportunities came their way, but they squandered them, with notable blunders coming from Gabby Nunes, who successfully pressed the ball off Toulouse Joyce, but could not put the ball to the back of the net, for example, which practically summed up Villa's evening of almost but not good enough, and this was especially worse considering that they were by far and away the better side. Man U found no joy in attack, whether it was Mallard, Toon, or Clinton. All of their efforts were drowned out by the staunch defensive display put on show by Villa, which was honestly the best thing that came out of the game for the visitors, and come the final whistle, both teams would have to settle for a point, and I think Manchester United would have been the happier of the two teams to get that type of a result, considering just how lackluster they were in this game, which will start to raise some questions about whether the Red Devils may be starting to lose some steam as the season continues to wear on. With Game Week 7 now wrapped up, this is the current state of affairs in the table, with Arsenal moving up to 4th place, displacing Manchester United on goal difference to be just a point behind Brighton, with Crystal Palace swapping places with West Ham, who finally left the no wins yet WhatsApp group, which is now consisting of only Aston Villa and Everton now. With that being said and done, that's it for today's video. Thank you all so very much as always for watching. Make sure to like, share, and subscribe if you enjoyed, and I will see you in the next one.